Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman to chair the 40th GST Council meeting today via video conferencing. In the first meeting after the nationwide lockdown, state finance ministers likely to present the picture of revenue scenario in their states. Ministry of External Affairs asserts that India and China are maintaining military and diplomatic engagements to peacefully resolve the Eastern Ladakh row at the earliest. In a sharp retort to Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan's statement, India reminded him that the size of its economic stimulus package is as large as Pakistan's GDP. ICMR says COVID pandemic in India is not at the community transmission stage. Mortality rate and infections per lakh population is much less as compared to the global average. Zero surveillance results made public. Steps taken to contain the pandemic, such as nationwide lockdown, proved successful. Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan reviews preparedness for COVID-19 management in Maharashtra through video conferencing, while Bhopal to remain closed on Saturdays and Sundays to curb the spread of COVID-19. In South, Karnataka Cabinet decides to bar online classes for students from class 1st to class 7th. The number of recovered patients of COVID-19 climbs higher as compared to those still actively infected. Recovery rate goes up to 49.21%, with over 1,41,000 patients cured and discharged. Active cases more than 1.37 lakh. Global count of COVID-19 infection nearly amounts to 75 lakh with more than 4.2 lakh deaths. US worst affected with over 20 lakh confirmed cases. Death toll in Brazil crosses a grim mark of 40,000. Good morning, you're watching DD News and I'm Preeti presenting the bulletin. Our top story first. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will today chair the 40th GST Council meeting in North Block over video conferencing. The state finance ministers are likely to present the assessment of the revenue loss due to the implementation of the GST. GST Council is set to meet for the first time after the nationwide lockdown, and the Council is expected to discuss the revenue shortfall and the compensation to the states. The Council will also likely decide on the ways to garner funds to compensate states for the revenue loss due to GST implementation. In the previous council meeting on March 14th, Sitharaman had said that the centre will look into the legality of GST Council borrowing from market to meet the compensation requirements. Major relief on GST front so far includes relaxation in GSR return filing for March, April and May till June 30th. Companies with less than 5 crore rupees turnover will not have to pay interest, late fee or penalty. For bigger companies, late fee and penalty will not apply, and only interest at a reduced rate of 9% will be charged. The government rolled out the facility on GSTN portal to file a nil form, that is GSTR3B, through SMS. The data for compensation scheme also extended till June 30th. And Ajay Mishra, our correspondent, is joining us to get us more on that. Ajay, the 40th GST meeting will be chaired by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman through video conferencing. We've given a broad outline as to what all will be taken up in the meet today. You get us the details.
So you have to understand first that in 3 months, the GST Council has to meet, which is the constitutional and legal binding on it. And this is the very first meeting after the lockdown was announced with it. So this is very important from the point of view of some of the decisions that were taken on 24th of March when the lockdown was announced by the Prime Minister. First of all, I think some of the essential items which has been manufactured after the aftermath of this pandemic, just like sanitizers and PPE kit and masks, the GST on these items are likely to be reduced to actually reduce the prices in the market. Secondly, as far as the revenues of states are concerned, that's a big concern for both center as well as the states, because of the lockdown, the business activities are not happening, and that's why GST is not being filed properly, and GST is not coming. So there will be options which will be evolved during the meeting, whether it will be prudent for the central government to go and borrow some money and actually compensate the states for the revenue loss during this period. We are also expecting that some of the relaxations that has been extended after the lockdown, can they be extended for another 3 months, for just on the line of the loan EMI facility given by the RBI? So are these return filing and late fees and fee waivers are going to be extended till 30th of September is yet to be seen and discussed. So these are some of the issues that we're expecting that will come up with. This is very short meeting. I think there is not much on the agenda. The finance ministers will try to assess the economic situation in respective states. States will obviously present their point of view, how much difficulties they are facing, and obviously demand some kind of urgent push to compensate the states for this revenue loss. That's all we are hearing from Nagpur.
All right, the concerns of the states will be addressed by the finance minister. Now, Ajay, when we are talking of the road to recovery in view of the COVID-19 pandemic, yesterday also we saw Prime Minister time and again talk of how we have to encourage the locally made products, and also he talked of how states can tap on the potential and how northeastern states can prove to be very critical for further development and progress of the nation. When we talk of the specific tasks at the hand of the government, at the hand of the finance minister in addressing the concerns of these manufacturers, small-time manufacturers, and in particular the concerns of the states in particular, what are the immediate challenges or the immediate tasks at the hand of the finance minister?
So I think when it comes to the fight against the COVID, it's a known fact that it's a fight which has to be fought together by the center and the states, and we know that the central can just make laws. Implementation is the key, as has been pointed out by so many credit rating agencies we were discussing yesterday also. So implementation has to be on the ground by the states, and that is very key where the state roles are. I think the labor reforms going forward are going to be very, very critical on the part of state governments. The land reforms are going to be very, very critical on the part of state governments, and also how they are going to protect their revenues is also their responsibilities. And I'm sure that the states are restructuring their economic models to actually take a leapfrog in this pandemic. So, for example, Uttar Pradesh, which is the largest state, and Bihar and Odisha and Bengal, which is primarily the consuming states, will now focus on the manufacturing facilities in their respective states, and that's why, and that will actually garner the revenues for them, and that's the way forward. Similarly, the manufacturing states, they will have to diversify, and they will have to take account of the labor issues that has arisen due to this during the lockdown period of this pandemic. So these are the time for the strategies and the new innovative ideas that the states and the center has to work upon. These are the difficult times, but I think another 3 months or 1 quarter we can discount, and when the BG season starts after October, we might expect some kind of a smart recovery in the economy and manufacturing activities and services activities, which will also garner the GST both to the center and the states.
All right, Ajay, thank you so much for joining us with those inputs. Let's get to other news now. India and China are maintaining military and diplomatic engagements to peacefully resolve the border row at the earliest. The Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Anurag Srivastava said that both sides had agreed to work for an early resolution to the issue in keeping with broader guidance provided by the leaders of the two countries for ensuring peace and tranquility along the border areas.
In order to address the situation in the areas along the India-China borders, it was agreed in this meeting that an early resolution of the situation would be in keeping with the guidance of our leaders. The two sides are therefore maintaining their military and diplomatic engagements to peacefully resolve the situation at the earliest, as also to ensure peace and tranquility in the border areas. This is essential for the further development of India-China bilateral relations.
The centre has asserted that the nation is definitely not in the community transmission stage of COVID-19. Besides, India's first sero survey on COVID-19 spread has found that lockdown and containment measures were successful in preventing a rapid rise in the infections. But ICMR has added a word of caution. Large proportion of the population still remains susceptible.
India's first sero survey on COVID-19 spread has found that the lockdown and containment measures were successful in preventing a rapid rise in infections, but a large proportion of the population still remains susceptible. The Union Health Ministry on Thursday asserted that the country is not in the community transmission stage. The good news is that India's mortality rate is very low when compared to other countries and the global average. India's mortality rate per lakh population is 0.59, which is also among the lowest in the world. The survey found that infection fatality rate is very low at 0.08%, and infection in containment zones was found to be high with significant variations. According to Union government, states have to continue testing and tracing and keep up effective surveillance and implement COVID-19 containment strategies.
लो हैं, बचे हुए हैं, हम सप्रेस करके दिखा चुके हैं, लेकिन आगे ये वायरस आ सकता है, हम ससेप्टेबल हैं, इसलिए हमें अपने लिए, अपने परिवार के लिए, अपनी कम्युनिटी के लिए, अपने देश के लिए वो स्टेप लेते रहना है जिनका कि बार-बार जिक्र आप सबने भी आगे बढ़ाया है और इस मंच से भी आप सुनते गए हैं.
The sero survey has found that 0.73% of the population in district survey had evidence of past exposure to COVID.
India is such a large country and the prevalence is so low that we have found that the prevalence is less than 1% in these small districts. In the urban areas it may be slightly higher, in the containment areas it may be slightly higher. But we are definitely, India is not in community transmission, and I would like to emphasize it is not in community transmission.
Meanwhile, India's COVID-19 recovery rate has shown an improvement. The recovery rate now stands at 49.21% as against 48.37% on Wednesday. Moreover, the number of patients recovered presently exceeds the number of active patients in the country.
हम देश में रिकवरी रेट में समय के साथ इजाफा पा रहे हैं. आज देश का रिकवरी रेट 49.21% है. इसके साथ ही एक बहुत ही पॉजिटिव न्यूज़ यह है कि नंबर ऑफ पेशेंट रिकवर्ड अब वह नंबर एक्सीड करता है नंबर ऑफ एक्टिव पेशेंट से. आई वुड जस्ट लाइक टू हाईलाइट कि नंबर ऑफ पेशेंट रिकवर्ड एक्सीड्स द नंबर ऑफ एक्टिव पेशेंट्स. एज ऑन 11 जून हमारे देश में 1,41,028 इंडिविजुअल्स क्योर और रिकवर हो चुके हैं.
According to latest figures, 1.4 lakh people have been cured and discharged till Thursday, while the active cases in the country stand at 1.37 lakh. DD India.
Union Minister for Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Harshvardhan, yesterday held a high-level meeting on preparedness for COVID-19 management in Maharashtra through video conferencing. Officials of Health Ministry, Maharashtra, State Health Minister, Medical Education Minister and DMs of COVID-19 affected districts attended the review meeting. The Health Minister personally interacted and reviewed the status of COVID-19 and its management with districts of Mumbai, Thane, Pune, Nashik, Palghar, Nagpur and Aurangabad. Speaking on the current scenario of COVID-19 in Maharashtra, Dr. Harshvardhan said that increase in number of containment zones needs immediate attention. Also, vulnerability mapping of densely populated areas should be done for effective containment strategy to be put in place. He also told the state officials that testing labs should ensure prompt delivery of reports of COVID-19 tests to help in timely detection and management of COVID-19 patients.
आप सब लोग महाराष्ट्र के अपनी हिम्मत को कमज़ोर ना होने दें और सब विषय पर पूरी पैनी निगाह रखें, एक दूसरे की गुड प्रैक्टिसेस को अपनाने की कोशिश करें। विद इन द स्टेट ऑल्सो और विद इन द कंट्री ऑल्सो बहुत सारे स्टेट्स ने बहुत अलग अलग तरह की गुड प्रैक्टिसेस को अपनाया है। उनका सभी जो ऑफिसर्स हैं वो अध्ययन करें, अपने कुलीग ऑफिसर्स से शेयर करें और उसके बाद उनको अपने यहाँ पर भी इम्प्लीमेंट करेंगे। तो मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि आने वाले समय में हमें अच्छी प्रकार से सफलता मिलेगी।
In Madhya Pradesh, Health and Home Minister Narottam Mishra has informed that Bhopal will remain closed for 2 days, that is Saturday and Sunday every week. He added that negligence and lapses in treatment will not be tolerated. He also ordered inquiry into non-treatment of a patient by the fever clinic of JP Hospital. Yesterday, a record 7,971 tests were conducted in a single day, out of which 192 persons were found COVID-19 positive. Coronavirus recovery rate in the state stands at 69%.
पूरा मध्य प्रदेश लगभग संभल गया है। भोपाल का है, अब आज ये भी तय किया है कि अब भोपाल 5 दिन खुलेगा, पूरा भोपाल खुलेगा 5 दिन और 2 दिन शनिवार इतवार इसको बंद रखेंगे।
In down south, Karnataka cabinet has decided to bar online classes for students from class 1st till class 7th. Earlier on Wednesday, the state government had decided to not allow online classes till 5th standard. Schools across the country have been shut since March 25th due to COVID-19 pandemic, and several of them have been conducting online classes during the lockdown. Karnataka government also said that collecting fee in the name of online classes should be stopped immediately. In another major decision, the government also decided to go ahead with class 10th board examinations as scheduled from June 25th. Though there were demands to postpone the exams, the government said that it is prepared to go ahead with the examinations for the class, taking precautionary measures and safety of the students. Telangana and Tamil Nadu governments have cancelled class 10th examinations.
We don't have idea when to start schools, but we will have examination as per schedule. We will have examination and online things will extend up to 7th standard. We have told up to 5th standard there cannot be online education. Now we have decided it has to be extended up to 7th standard.
Considering more number of people returning and spike in the number of new cases, Kerala government has come out with a new set of guidelines for quarantine and also has redefined the rules for declaring new containment zones. Accordingly to the expert committee, those coming from abroad can go home after giving an affidavit, but they will have to follow the quarantine conditions strictly. Police will take legal action against those who violate quarantine rules. Those who register on the COVID Jagrat portal should give an affidavit about home quarantine. They can choose their own house or any other suitable house. The local self-government bodies should make sure that they have enough facilities at home for quarantine. Institutional quarantine is only for those who do not have such a facility at home. Paid quarantine is also for those who opt to stay in hotels. The Chief Minister also announced some changes to the definition of the containment zones. The containment zone will be notified every night before 12. In the panchayats, the containment zone may be declared at the ward level and in corporation at the sub-ward level. They can be defined at a very local level based on the number of positive cases for people under quarantine, primary contacts and secondary contacts. Initially, containment zone will be declared for 7 days, which can be extended after review by district collector. And Indians stranded abroad continue to return home under the mission Vande Bharat. In the third phase, a special flight has left for Trivandrum and Mumbai from Abu Dhabi with 362 passengers. Earlier, Doha to Trichy flight with 176 passengers, including 3 infants, took off to bring back the passengers. Under the Indian Navy's Samudra Setu operation, naval ship INS Shardul on Thursday brought back 233 Indians to Gujarat from Iran, where they were stranded due to travel restrictions in view of the COVID-19 pandemic-induced lockdown. The ship set sail from Bandar Abbas port of Iran on June 8th with these 233 Indians, mostly fishermen from Valsad district of Gujarat, and they arrived at Porbandar port on Thursday. In view of the COVID-19 pandemic, the evacuated personnel were entrusted to the care of state authorities after reaching Porbandar.
Our mission was to evacuate our fellow countrymen from Iran, and it is a proud privilege for my team that the Indian Navy deployed INS Shardul for this important task. These people were stranded in different cities of Iran for over 3 months because of coronavirus pandemic and were facing extremely tough conditions. As part of Operation Samudra Setu, INS Shardul was ordered to embark 233 Indians at Bandar Abbas, Iran, and I'm happy that despite few challenges, we were able to safely evacuate them, and now they are disembarking at Porbandar.
In some other news, elections for 24 seats of Rajya Sabha are scheduled to be held on June 19th, and today is the last date of withdrawing nominations. Following initial announcement of elections for 55 seats, 37 candidates were elected unopposed. 18 seats are still vacant, for which elections will take place on June 19th. Later, the Election Commission added 6 more seats, following which now elections are being held for a total of 24 seats. Interesting fight is being witnessed in 4 states, including Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat and Jharkhand. Let's get to the global update on COVID-19. The number of infections worldwide is increasing manifolds. And according to the data from Johns Hopkins University, over 74.93 lakh people have been infected and over 4.2 lakh have lost their lives due to COVID-19 pandemic worldwide. While the United States tops with the highest number of infected cases, that is over 20.22 lakh, and over 1.13 lakh deaths due to COVID-19, Brazil comes in at the second position with over 8.02 lakh cases, followed by Russia with 5.01 lakh confirmed cases of COVID-19. United Kingdom is on the 4th position, having 2.92 lakh confirmed cases of COVID-19. Though the number of cases of COVID-19 is increasing, but many countries have decided that this is the moment to ease lockdown restrictions. The International Criminal Court has said that U.S. President Donald Trump's authorization of economic and travel sanctions against ICC employees amounted to threats and coercion and were an unacceptable attempt to interfere with the rule of law. The ICC said that it stood by its staff and officials and described U.S. sanctions as being the latest in the series of unprecedented attacks on the court. Earlier, the U.S. president imposed sanctions on court officials who are investigating whether U.S. forces committed war crimes in Afghanistan. The executive order allows the U.S. to block the assets of International Criminal Court employees and also stop them from entering the country. The ICC investigation began after a preliminary report found reason to believe war crimes had been committed. The executive order was signed. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo clearly said that Washington would not allow Americans to be threatened by a kangaroo court. He also added that the sanctions could extend to family members of ICC officials to prevent them from visiting the United States. European Union's diplomatic chief, however, expressed serious concern at the move and reiterated the 27-member bloc's support to the court. Meanwhile, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu backed Trump's move, praising him for taking action against the corrupt and biased International Criminal Court, which he accused of conducting witch hunts against Israel.
We cannot and we will not stand by as our people are threatened by a kangaroo court. And indeed, I have a message to many close allies around the world. Your people could be next, especially those from NATO countries who fought terrorism in Afghanistan right alongside of us. We're also gravely concerned about the threat the court poses to Israel. ICC is already threatening Israel with an investigation of so-called war crime committed by its forces and personnel in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip.
All right, that's it in this edition of the news. But before we go, we'll get you this important video on home quarantine. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.
Home quarantining is a protective measure that can slow down the spread of the coronavirus. Let's see what a home quarantined person should do. Stay restricted inside a well-ventilated single room, preferably with an attached separate toilet. The quarantined person should stay away from elderly people, pregnant women, children, and persons with comorbidities within the household. Under no circumstances should the person attend any social gathering. He should definitely avoid sharing household items. Wear a surgical mask at all the time. The mask should be changed every 6 to 8 hours and disposed of. The used mask should be considered as potentially infected. If another family member needs to stay in the same room, it is advisable to maintain a distance of at least 1 meter between the two. Only an assigned family member should be tasked with taking care of the person. Clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces in the quarantined person's room. Clean the clothes and other linen used by the person separately using common household detergent and dry. Use disposable gloves when cleaning the surfaces or handling soiled linen. Strictly no visitors should be allowed. Everyone should wash hands as often thoroughly with soap and water or with alcohol-based hand sanitizer. In case the person being quarantined becomes symptomatic, all his close contacts will be home quarantined for 14 days and followed up for an additional 14-day or till the report of such case turns out negative on lab testing.